Thinking in. Making things.
Mary Ann wants you to send an open link.
Yeah, I told you. What it was. Okay, go ahead, Tom. Make it ready.
I called to order the regular Board of Education meeting on Thursday, May 23rd, 2024 at 6:32 p.m. in the boardroom of Oak Park in the Fourth High School. Ask for roll call, please.
Mr. Brisbane,
Here.
Dr. Maharaj, Mr. Arkin,
Here.
Ms. Williams Lee, Dr. Livingston, Mr. Grandhost.
Here.
And Mr. Costa.
Here. I move to enter closed session for the purpose of discussing the employment, compensation, discipline, performance, and dismissal of specific employees of the district, or legal counsel for the district, and independent contractors and specific volunteers, including hearing testimony on a conflict against an employer or against legal counsel for the district to determine its validity. However, a meeting to consider an increase in compensation to a specific employee of the public body that is subject to the Local Government Increased Transparency Act may not be closed and shall be open to the public and posted and held in accordance with this act. Collective negotiating matters between the district and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedule for one or more classes of employees, and litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of the particular public body has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into the minutes of the closed meeting.
Second.
And roll calls. Thank you.
Dr. Maharaj, Mr. Arkin,
Yes.
Ms. Williams Lee, Mr. Brisbane,
Yes.
Mr. Grandhost.
Yes.
Dr. Wilson, Mr. Costa.
Yes.
We are reconvening open session. And our first order of business is student showcase. Dr. Johnson.
All right. This is the end of the year after all, so it's time to celebrate a few things. And we don't have a student showcase in June, so we have to pack it all in right now. So our first up, I think our first order of business is going to be Apple. So I don't know who is teeing this up, but Dr. Fierent is coming up to this. There we go.
Good evening. I just introducing Miss McLean. She, with the Apple program, took a group of students on a cultural learning experience in Japan over spring break. And so here she is to tell you more about that opportunity.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm excited to share that in February, Autumn Brown, Savannah Sin, Riley Bazillion, who is our Black Leaders Union president, and Mina Hollins were the inaugural student group that went to the Apple-sponsored trip to Japan for spring break. They spent 11 days visiting Tokyo, Osaka, Maiyama Island, Hiroshima, the Peace Memorial Park and Museum, and Yokohama. The students participated in a traditional Japanese tea ceremony and taiko drum lesson. I will turn it over to them for them to share with you everything else that they experienced.
Hi, can you hear me? Hi, I'm Mina Marie Hollins, and I'm an upcoming junior in high school. It was the fourth day in Japan. We all decided to take a ferry to go to this very special island, Hiroshima, with all these outdoor shops, markets, and cafes, restaurants. It was the first day we were able to be alone and really experience the island by ourselves. I remember this new feeling because I was feeling so much joy because everyone there is so sweet and so nice. The customer service is top tier. The food is amazing. I tried many new different desserts like matcha and coffee ice cream and Lupton Lulu, mango lemonade, and I also had the best French toast in my entire life. That same day, I also received raw chicken, which I got in a sandwich. And when I told them about it, they took the piece that I bit into and put it back on the stove, which I thought was kind of gross. There are also these cute little deer all over the island that would come up to us and try to eat plastic. So I gave him a piece of my lemon, which he took happily, and that is why I really enjoyed this trip.
Hello everyone, my name is Autumn Brown. I'm an upcoming junior, and I was a part in the trip to Japan. I'll share the part where we went to the mall and we were given the permission to split up and explore the shops and places that we rarely get to do. It was amazing that we could go on our own shopping spree and see what malls of Japan has to offer. I love seeing a lot of unique and vintage stuff that was surprisingly cheap to the point that you could buy a whole outfit for 5,000 yen. And it was nice. It was a nice experience from the whole trip. I bought a lot of cat-related stuff and candy, and I also begged my mom to buy me some stuff for me too. I always make sure I don't pester her a lot. And pester my mother. But I'm grateful that she brought me and us to the Japan trip. It was a life-changing experience. Thank you for coming and listening tonight.
Hi everyone, my name is Savannah Singh, and I got to go on the Japan trip. Okay, when I went to Japan, it was cherry blossom season, which was something that was very rare and beautiful. This season only occurs 3 to 4 times a week, for 3 to 4 weeks. Cherry blossoms are not something that we usually see in Chicago, and if we do, it is nowhere near the same amount as we can see in Japan. I think that the opportunity to see that many cherry blossoms was an amazing part of my trip. That this opportunity is not something that a lot of other people have, which I really don't think is fair. I believe that the experience that I was able to have in Japan should be open to everyone at the school
even if they don't have the funding. And the people who do have those funds should have the compassion to help those who want to have that same experience like I did. Thank you so much and have an amazing night.
Hi, I'm Riley Brazilian, I'm a senior. And when I went to Japan, we went to a lot of different like cities in Japan. And my absolute favorite that we went to was Hiroshima. We got a lot of free time and we kind of stayed downtown like towards the city. So we like all decided as a group to go explore. And through this, like, there was this little area, like a strip mall, and we had so much fun. We did karaoke. We tried a lot of Japanese, like traditional Japanese food, as well as a lot of their take of American food. And it was just a very, very fun experience.
Now we have a small video sharing what the students got to see.
We're gonna try this with sound, but if it echoes, I might have to turn it down.
Thank you very much, Apple and girls. Or to be included in all future films. All right, next up for our student showcase is information about our Husky Ambassadors program. And here for this is
So tonight I have the pleasure to introduce to you two representatives of our Husky Ambassador program and Ms. Cahill, who are going to come on up. And they're going to talk a little bit about this group that Ms. Cahill and I run during school day. Come on. I'm going to let Ms. Cahill talk because she is the one who started this program.
Oh, I think I asked you a few minutes.
This actually started from Principal Parker's Pack Pride initiatives right after COVID, and adults were getting together. I think she was doing it like once a month, maybe before your time. We needed more student voice, so it started like that, and then it was a Swanson grant, and it really has evolved into students that have a leadership role, not only in welcoming some of our transfer students, but really being on hand for kind of all things Husky, whether it's an assembly or they're helping out at graduation, or what are some of our other Fun Fridays have been a huge one this year, which happened the Friday after the Thursday Wellness Day. We always have just fun activities during all the lunch periods that relate to the theme of whatever the wellness activity was the day before. So you can even make fun of conflict resolution, I promise you that. But I will let the girls talk a little bit more about the program. They have definitely been there since the beginning. In fact, remember,
Yeah, it was like really big.
Hannah was a sophomore. We had,
It was freshman year. It
same
was our
year.
freshman year.
But I had to go back and find Zoe, because she came to every initial
Yeah, that's
meeting.
true.
So when we were evolving again with the Swanson grant and our little reboot, I went and found her, because she came to them all, and I knew she was gonna be a great leader amongst us.
I'm Zoe Segrao, a rising senior.
I'm Hannah Diaz, I'm a rising senior.
So, as Ms. Cahill kind of mentioned, we've both been a part of the Pac Pride turned Husky ambassadors since our freshman years. And we kind of both agreed that we find it's so nice to have like a type of leadership position where we can see the impact we're doing. Whether it's the Fun Fridays or helping out with assemblies, we can see that all the work we're doing is actually helpful. And it's really nice to see how the students accept it and reciprocate it. One example is probably the Fun Fridays, where if we're putting stuff out for them to paint or decorate cookies that they can eat and not pay for, and they can enjoy time to talk with their friends in the hallways. Everything we do it's really nice to see that impact.
And then we've been doing stuff with the transfer students, which is something next year I think we're gonna try to do a little more of. We started having like breakfasts in the morning. And we got like some people, that we figured out some strategies to start getting more people to come. So it's yeah. What we do.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, the last but not least, of course, we have two athletic student showcases we want to address here. First is girls track, and the second is badminton. So turn it over to our athletic director, Nicole Epstein.
Hello, we have lots going on. So proud to say that today alone, we are the recipients of two regional plaques for boys volleyball and for girls softball. So we're on our way in our postseason. And to kick it off with our state qualifiers for this spring, I'm going to turn it over to Coach to introduce to you our girls track qualifiers.
Good evening, my name is Nick Mahalik, I'm the head coach for the girls track and field team. So we qualified 13 athletes to go down to state last weekend. This is some of the athletes that we took down. We went down in every field event and a variety of running events, so we had a pretty good showing down there. I'm going to let them introduce themselves and talk about the event that they do, and then I'll kind of do a recap of the season.
Hello, my name is Mar Butterly. I'm a rising senior, and I'm one of the athletes that went down to state. State was a great experience, being able to run fast, jump hard, throw hard with some great goals. That state was amazing. I definitely think we couldn't have done it without our teammates and without the new track that we have. I think it definitely builds our confidence, and we were able to create a stronger bond together. And I think it was a great experience, and I'm glad we were able to spend so many people down to state. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bella Brock. I'm also a rising senior. I went down to state for 3 events and came back with 2 medals. So that was a great experience. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Brian Davis. I'm graduating this weekend, and the events I went down to state for this year. And I'd say I had a pretty good season, and I'm really glad that I was able to make the podium in state.
Hi, I'm Mona Cizak. I'm a rising junior, and I went down to state for this because this season it was just like probably closer to a lot of new people, made a lot of new friends, and I feel track's a great way to get new people. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Taylor Smith. I'm a senior, currently gonna graduate. I went down to state for long jump and triple jump and didn't place, but I had a really good experience there. I feel like we had some good opportunities to hang out with the team. I just feel like we had like a really good time with one another, and we all competed well to the best of their ability. So yeah, thanks.
So this season, we had 119 athletes competing with us. We competed in 13 meets throughout the season. 5 of those meets were in the indoor season and 8 of those meets were in the outdoor season. 3 of those meets included our conference, sectional, and state meet. In our conference meet for the West Suburban Silver Division, we took 3rd place. In our sectional meet, we took 2nd place, which is what qualified us for, with the 13 athletes that went down to state. As you heard, our medalists are here. Brandon Davis took 6th place in the discus, and Bella Brock in the 400 took 9th place, and in the high jump took 9th place. One thing I'd like to say about this team is one of their greatest attributes has been their ability to pull together and lift each other up. This season, whenever we needed someone to fill in a place, whenever we needed someone to support someone, when we needed cheering on in a section, whether it be the shot put, the long jump, or the triple jump, the team was there. And I think that and their passion for the sport really brought us together to have the successful season that we did. I'd like to say that Brianna is going to be throwing in college, and Taylor's going to be long jump and triple jump in college as well. So they are going to continue their careers. Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay, and then I'm going to read something on behalf of our badminton program as they could not be here tonight. But the individuals who qualified are people that you will recognize because they stood before us last year, because it was the same 2 individuals that qualified for state their junior year. Congratulations to our outstanding state qualifying doubles team. For 2 consecutive years, the dynamic duo has showcased their exceptional talent by qualifying for the state tournament. Liliana's remarkable achievement of being a state qualifier all 4 years at OPRF has made her the first player in over 25 years to earn this honor. Their dedication and synergy has set a high standard for future doubles teams in the program. As Liliana graduates, we look forward to seeing Annika take on a leadership role and mentoring her new doubles partner, just as Liliana did for her. The future of the growing badminton program shines bright with prominence as we continue the tradition of sending our athletes to state. So thank you again for your continued support, and we hope to be here next month with even more state qualifiers. Thank you.
Council? I don't believe she's here. She's not. Okay. Superintendent's report here. Several items to share. First, for any families who have seniors or who plan on attending the graduation ceremony this coming Sunday, this is an announcement that we had shared out electronically with our families, senior families earlier today. I'm going to paraphrase part of it here. We are closely monitoring the weather predictions for Sunday's commencement, and unfortunately, it appears that rain is a very strong possibility. I want to share our 2 contingency plans. First, if there is a high likelihood of rain all afternoon on Sunday, graduation would take place at 3 p.m. as scheduled, but it would be relocated indoors to the field house. If rain is likely but predicted to hold off until later in the afternoon on Sunday, keeping the ceremony outdoors in the stadium at an earlier time is being considered in order to accommodate the maximum number of attendees. The earliest time we would hold the ceremony on Sunday would be noon. We have communicated these contingencies to our families, as I noted, and we will send them an update about our plans no later than 5 p.m. on Saturday. Okay, on to other announcements. Congratulations to senior Katie Stott for being named a semifinalist in the prestigious 2024 U.S. Presidential Scholars Program, which recognizes students nationwide for their academic and extracurricular excellence. I also want to point out, it seems that almost every board meeting recognizes Katie Stott. She is just an outstanding student. Congratulations to teacher Buster Torres for receiving the 2024 Illinois High School Driver Education Association's Early Career Teacher of the Year Award. By incorporating special education principles, Buster has successfully created an inclusive and supportive atmosphere in his driver education classes, ensuring that every student feels empowered and can learn and succeed. Congratulations to junior Sophia Lynn, who won first place in headline writing at the Illinois High School Association's State Journalism Tournament. And even though we've just recognized them, I do want to state and read their names here. Congratulations to the 13 girls, as noted, who qualified for track and field this past week. Bella Brock, Julia Brown, Hannah Franke, Chloe Kazicki, Devin Clyden, Violet Schneisman, Lucy Stein, Lenny Sterrett, Brianne Davis, Olivia Slazik, Alexis Henderson, and Taylor Smith. Congratulations, ladies. And also congratulations to having 13 students go down to the state track meet is amazing. Congratulations to the 31 boys track and field qualifiers who had an amazing season as well, who are competing at state this weekend. Lucas Brock, Mikey Degnan, Mariano Escobedo, Caden Garland, Andrew Harmon, Connor Harmon, Brian Jackson, Riley Jackson, Cam January, Jeremiah Jenkins, Dan Johnson, Tristan Kidd, Tyler Lacey, Kelson Lewis, Kevin McGovern, Michael Nicoletti, Liam Maroney, James Necky, Khalil Nichols, Lewis O'Connor, Liam O'Connor, Fabena Asa Yuboa, Kingston Peterson, Caleb Schultz, Connor Shuck, Jonathan Sibley Diggs, Isaiah Smith, Quinn Testori, Santiago Valley, Tyler Washington, and last but not least, Carmelo. Also, congratulations to the recipients of our Senior Sports Awards. Sam Gray received the Carruthers Memorial Award for exemplifying courage, perseverance, and success through adversity. Easton Bogart received the Male Husky Athletic Council Athlete of the Year, and Grace Nelson received Female Husky Athletic Council Athlete of the Year for demonstrating leadership, character, and sportsmanship, and embodying the spirit of Husky athletics. Coach Jason Freed received the Trofimic Coach of the Year for showing courage and dedication, embodying the spirit of Coach Trofimic. Kaden Garland and Katie Staub received, respectively, the Male and Female Athletic Medal Award winners for their exceptional athletic achievements. Congratulations to senior Jasmine Maldonado on receiving a College Career Pathway Endorsement, CCPE, this year. Maldonado successfully completed a demanding Certified Nursing Assistant program, which included 60 hours of clinical work at Rush Oak Park Hospital, qualifying her to take the Illinois Nurse Assistant Certifying Exam. Also, congratulations to senior Julia Casco and junior Daniel Epstein for winning first and second place, respectively, for their innovative health-related research at the Center for Mathematics, Science, and Technology at the Illinois State University Symposium. And in a first for OPRFHS, Bella Lubelchek, her research on the socioeconomic impacts of Illinois' Pretrial Fairness Act has been selected for presentation at the National Institute of Justice Conference in Pittsburgh this September. Quite impressive. Congratulations to the award-winning artists who participate in the Art Connect Ed Illinois High School Art Exhibition, which comprises 3 different shows. In the Northern Regional General Exhibition, known as the Best of the Best show, Ainsley McConnell took the Best in Show for Ceramics, and Indigo Field took second place in Mixed Media. Violet White, Emily Eastman, and Jules Ware received scholarships in the Senior Scholarship Exhibition. And in the Early College Program Exhibition highlighting underclassmen, Indigo Field and Ruby Drexler received full tuition scholarship for summer pre-college programs. And finally, congratulations to this year's winning Business Incubator team, Bolt Ahead, made up of Aria Hammerschmidt, Tessa Chrisman, Ashley Mandel, Lily Plywitz, and Tate Scanlon. And I want to give a thanks to program mentors, Betsy Edelstein, Misty Olson, Dan Olson, Katie Schlott, Gil Herman, Kevin Redzinski, Jerry McGuire, and Dan Petrowski, and to Friendly Sharks, Sun Hee Yoon, Glenn Brewer, Laura Barnard, John Berman, and our very own board member, Graham Brisley. We also want to recognize, last but not least, in a similar vein, Entrepreneur Leaders in Philanthropy, part of the Oak Park River Forest Community Foundation, for its $4,000 scholarship for the winning team, and Gil Herman for his donation of an additional $1,000 to recognize and award more teams and individuals this year. I would like to acknowledge the Accelerator students, Lucas Crossman, Zoe Hendrickson, Eliana Ping, Rachel Gupta, Rowan Duty, Soren Shah-Hempel, and Allison George for donating their $1,000 of profit back to the program for future students to benefit from. So thank you, Huskies, as we wrap up another fabulous year at OPRF. It's always great to acknowledge so many fabulous accomplishments. And that concludes my report.
Wow. Yes. Okay, Lisa, can you top that off?
Nope. But we had 7 requests and 6 of them have been resolved.
Thank you very much. Okay. We now will be focusing on employer recognition. And today we are pleased to continue our employer recognition and student recognition program for the 2023-24 school year. This program is sponsored by Oak Park Bank, a Wintrust community bank.
Yeah, I'd like to start out. First, we'd like to congratulate Leandrew Wade, physical education teacher, was selected Teacher of the Month. Here are some of the highlights from the nominations received for the end. Mr. Wade is a retiring teacher and sponsor for our Black Leaders Union. He actively supports and guides students and staff at OPRF, forms community partnerships to prepare students for the future, and boosts staff boosts staff confidence. His retirement will be a significant loss. Congratulations, Leandro. Is there anything you'd like to say? Nope.
This is the one OPRF event he has not attended.
Yeah.
He goes to it. So he's probably at something right now.
And I will go next, and now I'd like to extend congratulations to our Employee of the Month, Laura Corbett, Teaching Assistant for Special Education. And here are some of the highlights from the nomination received for Laura. Ms. Corbett, a dedicated teaching assistant for 8 years, has supported students with disabilities, demonstrated professionalism, and provided reliable support, earning deep respect as she approached retirement. And I don't know if Laura here?
Yes.
Great, so Laura, so congratulations again, Laura, and is there anything you'd like to say? Sure.
I'm a rising retiree. I just want to give a shout out to my members over at site. It's a really special program, and everyone, all of the staff, the teachers, the assistants, everyone works together every day. It goes above and beyond for our most challenging students, and it's just been an honor to work with. Thank you.
You have to get your.
Thank you.
There you go. And right.
Next, I would like to extend congratulations to our volunteer of the month, Jose Morales. Is he there? Excellent. Here are some of the highlights from the nominations received for Jose. Mr. Morales, a dedicated volunteer to the softball program, records games, manages scorekeeping, and creates professional graphics for social media, greatly enhancing team support while juggling his own commitments. Congratulations, Jose. Is there anything you'd like to say?
Thank you for the consideration and acknowledgement, first off. All of this kind of spurred as it initiated after COVID, since a lot of families wanted to see their kids play. And as my daughter, who was a senior last year, one of the things that we wanted to do was kind of capture all the players who wanted to consider playing into the next level. The things that we kind of started seeing was a matter of confidence between the players and the camaraderie that came out of that, and it took us all the way down to the state. So it was such a successful year. But what it also did was it created a great community amongst the parents. Not only myself as a volunteer, but we also have another parent who also volunteers. He takes great pictures and videos. He's currently doing that for our softball team, and he and I collaborate a lot. So I also wanted to give him a shout out because he doesn't have a student who's playing on the softball team. But we wanted to provide some videos, some content, some exposure for our girls who actually wanted to play on the next level. It's an interesting sort of thing that kind of evolved here in that between high schools and teammates and friends and through travel programs, coaches, whether in college or from other high schools, what they've done was they really paid attention to our program. You know, I never expected that sort of kind of evolution of volunteering from other parents whose children are actually not playing with the program anymore. So I also like to thank them from that standpoint. And if you haven't seen Mark Regan's latest video, the latest site video, I suggest you check it out. Came out this morning, so I just wanted to give him a shout out. But thank you again. I very much appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, up next, we are pleased to continue our new sustainability recognition program again this month. Starting the school year, we will recognize 2 sustainability champions, 1 student and 1 employee, for their exemplary efforts in environmental sustainability. As such, congratulations are in order for Seela Snyder. Is Seela here tonight? Okay. She is our student sustainability champion. Here are some of the highlights from the nominations received for Seela. Seela actively participates in Cleanup Give Back, cares for horses, and will be majoring in environmental sustainability in college. A sustainability leader, she practices and promotes conservation, composting, and eco-friendly habits among friends. Congratulations, Seela.
Okay. And our last recognition is the Staffelty Sustainability Champion for the month, who is Michelle Zhang, science teacher. Michelle's? She is. I can't see. She's hiding behind this one.
Hold on 1 minute, Michelle.
Okay, so here are highlights of what was said in the nomination for Michelle. Ms. Zhang founded how do you say it?
Echo PRF.
Thank you, Echo PRF. A summer hydroponics program expanding school outreach to local markets and organizations while providing students with enrichment opportunities in sustainable food systems. Michelle, would you like to say something?
Sure. Thank you, and also we're continuing this summer. And our goal is to sell at a lot more farmers markets in Before, so support our.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Congratulations. Okay. Our next agenda topic is public comments. Lisa? Pardon?
We have 3.
We have 3, okay. I would just ask that we please limit public comments concerning matters within the jurisdiction of the Board of Education to 3 minutes. This is not intended to be a dialogue with the board. Any response will take up to 2 weeks. So who do we have first? Lisa?
Our first speaker for tonight is Ms. Melanie McClain.
Hello again. Let me know why.
I'm trying to get it set. Ready, set, go.
Dear esteemed District 200, Board of Education, Dr. Brett Johnson, Principal Parker, and co-clerk of the board, Ms. Lisa Evans. As another incredible year draws to a close, I want to take a moment to express our heartfelt gratitude to our parent community for your unwavering support and dedication to our mission. Your commitment to our organization, Apple, has been instrumental in driving positive change in our school. Many highlights of this past year were the invaluable work of connecting with African American student body through community outreach, cultural immersion, advocacy, and conflict resolution. APPLE, African American Parents for Purposeful Leadership in Education, participated in the Oak Park Community 4th of July Parade of 2023. We're also doing it again this year, 2024, and connected with the first African American student in advanced placement classes. We also learned of the passing of our founder, scholar, Dr. Gerald Clay, on November 4th, 2022. He was also the co-founder of the Community Forum, Black-White Dialogues, and Dr. Clay has also served in both the U.S. Army and the U.S. Navy, where he achieved the rank of lieutenant commander. Dr. Clay is survived by his wife, children, and grandchildren. He also has a scholarship that is available to OPRI high school students that is given annually. The D200 Board of Education appointed Culture, Climate, and Behavior Committee discussions highlighted the ongoing need for improvement and emphasized the critical role of parent engagement in fostering a safer, more equitable, and inclusive environment for all students. In 2023, new Apple Board member, scholarship chair, Harvard graduate, and OPRF alum, Ambria Jones joined CCB, contributing to conversations on BUP revision, school safety, and chief security officer turnover. He just met our teams that were part of our inaugural trip to Japan. We were also this year, the 2024 Future Philanthropist Program grant recipients for the Apple Seed Cultivating Leadership and Global Citizenship Program. This year-long leadership program will award a student $2,000 toward the Apple Cultural Immersion trip next year, which is going to Belize. Apple also honored Mr. Leandrew Wade at our Apple Seed Scholarship Dinner. The beloved Mr. Wade has taught hundreds of OPRI students how to drive, how to make better decisions, and promoted leadership. He was also the sponsor of the Black Leaders Union. His smile, warmth, and presence among the students, staff, and parents will be missed. Apple awarded Ashley Brown, who's attending Loyola Marymount, and Khalil Nichols, who's attending Northern Michigan, a $500 Apple Seed Scholarship. In closing, we extend our deepest appreciation for your continued partnership and support.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. McQueen. Our next speaker for tonight is Ambria Jones.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ambria Jones. And what I'm going to say comes about a year too late, so my apologies in advance. I'm going to fix this. So I can see myself. Alrighty, so this year makes my 10-year anniversary from graduating from OPRF. But in the last year, thanks, Mom, I had the pleasure of being in a prestigious master's program where I completed a capstone that talked about hair discrimination in high school and how they were sometimes intertwined or even included in dress code policy. The research that I used, I decided to use my own high school, my own alma mater, as a case study, and I analyzed the racial equity policy 712. In that, I felt it was most important to do qualitative research, and I reached out to the board members to do interviews. I was shocked to see that I received so little engagement at first, but I was able to interview two outstanding board members who I want to recognize. Again, being too late, but I feel like it was appropriate to do it today. Who was Mr. Ralph, who's no longer on the board, and Dr. Marianne. Their support allowed me Martier, sorry. So that being said, the reason this was important is not only was it a requirement for the capstone process, but I really wanted to understand the board's process of implementing policy based on recommendations given by students, faculty, staff, parents, and the outside community. Listening to these board members, I was able to understand how hard it is to be a board member and how hard it is to actually implement the things that you're looking to put into policy. But that being said, I feel like conversations like these need to happen a little bit more often. So my recommendation for the future is to please check your email. We want to hear from you. We want to engage with you share your insights with current students as they are unaware of how these policies are created, how these procedures are made, but how they impact their lives, they are very aware of. Your participation matters as you are a part of the school community in a different type of way. But most importantly, I want to say that as not only was this a component of my capstone program, but it did allow me to fulfill my requirements. In almost 365 days to today, I was able to receive my master's in international relations from Harvard University. So thank you again to the board members who participated. Thank you again to the board for being a support system for me during that time. And I hope that more policies similar to the racial equity policy 712 are implemented in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. I have one more on the list, Ms. Gail Gerhardt, but I believe she left, so that concludes my public comments.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay. We will now move into our action and start with our consent agenda. Before doing so, are there any items that board members would like pulled from the consent? Okay, seeing none, I move to approve the open and closed minutes of April 25 and May 9, 2024, and a declaration of the audio tapes of the closed session minutes of August 2020 be destroyed. B, approval of the personnel recommendations, including new hires, resignations, retirements, and releases. C, excuse me, approval of the following policies for second read and action. 2:40 board member qualifications. 2:50 board member term of office. 2:60 board member removal from office. 2:140 communication to and from the board. 2:260 uniform grievance procedure. 2:265 Title IX grievance procedure. 2:270 discrimination and harassment of debate on the basis of race, color, and national origin. 4:20 fund balance. 4:110 transportation. 4:190 targeted school violence prevention program. 5:10 equal employment opportunity and minority recruitment. 5:20 workplace harassment prohibited. 5:35 compliance with the Fair Labor Standards Act. 5:40 communicable and chronic infectious disease. 5:100 staff development program. 5:300 schedules and employment year. 6:40 curriculum development. 7:10 equal educational opportunities. 7:20 harassment of students prohibited. And 7:180 prevention of and response to bullying, intimidation, and harassment. D, approval of FGM architects to take drone photographs of the new track and field and baseball field. E, approval of the IGA with Oak Park Township for a total two-year amount of $68,680. F, approval of the 2024-2025 salary recommendations for administrators and non-affiliated employees and pay raise increases for food service employees for a total cost of $224,918.70, which is $463,122.21 below the cost of salary increases for these employee groups for 2024-25 and our 5-year projected financial model. G, approval of the March 2024 financial reports as presented. H, approval of the March 2024 treasurer's report as presented. I, approval of the April and May 2024 check disbursements and financial resolutions, including the payroll resolution for June 2024. J, approval of to recommend the NAAIPC RFPs and rollovers as presented. K, approval of the contract with Hyatt Regency Chicago for prom 2025 for a minimum cost of $68,000. The cost is fully funded by student tickets and no profit is made from it. L, to approve the recommendation that Athletic Co. continue to serve as the district's provider of athletic training services for a cost of $80,654.03 for fiscal 25. And M, to approve with gratitude the donation of a 2001 Jeep Grand Cherokee to the OPRF Auto Shop from Jason Kerner and Sue Kihias.
Second.
And a roll call, please.
Mr. Brandhorst?
Yes.
Ms. Williams Lee?
Yes.
Dr. Livingston?
Yes.
Dr. Maharaj?
Yes.
Mr. Brisbane?
Yes.
Mr. Arkin?
Yes.
And Mr. Costi?
Yes. Okay. Where are we doing?
It's discussion, 10 minutes, flip them. Okay, correct.
Okay.
And we'll do information.
And then we'll go back to where it is. Okay. We're doing a little bit of a reshuffle here. We are starting with the 10-year maintenance plan discussion.
Okay, up for this is a significant revision of our 10-year maintenance plan of our capital improvement projects. This comes after a lot of discussion and really good feedback from our facilities committee meeting, but I won't steal their thunder. Here to present this is Tony Arbogast, Assistant Superintendent of Services, and our two folks down there in B&G world, our Director of Construction, Jeff Bergman, and our Director of Building Services. So Tony, go ahead.
Sure. We took the kind of original view of the 10-year capital improvement plan, and then in February reviewed all of the documents and completed building walkthroughs with both FGM and Gilbane to identify and categorize the work. We really took this approach with 4 major lenses in mind. Accessibility for all of our students, including those with disabilities, and going both, are we meeting components of the ADA and where can we exceed those? We looked at sustainability. We looked at opportunities. If we're doing one project, does it make sense to take advantage of savings and do another? And we looked at need and items that need to be replaced based on life of a certain system or a need of the building. Once we completed those walkthroughs, we had the costs done professionally by Gilbane instead of just using kind of our best estimates. We went to Gilbane. They did a formal cost analysis. We then reviewed and updated our documents to align to budget availability. If some things came in more than previously anticipated, others were in line. So then we reshuffled based on what could be afforded in what year to provide a little bit of balance to our budget. In April, we then brought the updated plan to the facilities committee and said, okay, this is what we've done, and walked through both the plan and the purpose of what we were doing, incorporated their feedback, and then went and kind of broke the documents down. Some of their recommendations you might see on the summary document that was included that would include items outside of the CIP scope. The geothermal well field, for example, projects 3, 4, and 5, just to keep them front of mind. Now we bring this for information to the board. As a reminder, this isn't a document itself that the board votes on, but this kind of gives us direction to then bring future projects forward through the CIP work to be voted on. That will begin in June to authorize the summer of 25 work. June to September, we prepare drawings, construction documents, get ready for bid. We also plan to review this document quarterly. We will update the 10-year maintenance plan in based on the reassessment of our equipment list in May. And then starting June to August, the summer CIP work from previous year's bids will begin.
Any questions?
Perfect, I may have a couple. I really appreciate the work that's been done. And I just have a couple things that I want to ask. This is probably the best and most comprehensive since I've been around. But I do want to know about our relationship with building. Right? When we signed the contract with them for Project One to be able to hire them as our construction manager at all.
Yes, so that was something that because we had and the two documents I am thinking of, the number one was A134, the other the number escapes me. One creates kind of a formalized relationship with Gilbane as our construction manager of record. Then the other is specific to Project Two. But that does allow us then to go to them and say, okay, can we be a part of this process or include you as a part of this process and come out and walk the buildings with us and then provide like what would our pricing be to do certain projects and we see things out of this lens. What do you see in the building? So it does create that relationship for us.
The other thing is, I look at, the scope of work for the next 10 years. It seems to me that there are a lot of elements here that or several elements that would also be incorporated in some portions of the Imagine Plan. And so one of the concerns I have is just to make sure that that Imagine document, all right, it continues to be a living document. And that's, if just for an example, I see a lot of science department buildings, which I think are contemplated in some of the future phases of Imagine. And so I just, so it would be nice to see if somehow which elements are also maybe included in the Imagine plan. Because if we're going to do them 2 years early or 3 years before we even get into Imagine 3 year Imagine, then obviously it's going to lower the scope of what that particular Imagine phase would be. So that would be, that's one comment.
Sure, and I realize too that in some portions when we see and we definitely provide some specifics on the science department in a moment, but there were times when we did our walkthroughs where when we looked at certain corridors, it's okay. This needs to be addressed now, where this is something that may happen further down the line with Project 3 or Project 4. So it does not make sense to spend money and then basically do work just to redo that work in 2 or 3 years. So we did have an eye on that moving forward. There's other items such as with the science department improvements, both from an accessibility standpoint on why it can't wait, certain classrooms that are inaccessible right now. And then I don't know if there's anything further you kind of want to add to that.
You hit it right on the head, Tony.
Yeah.
So I'm not being critical of the document in any way. But I want to make sure that there's an effort and some coordination with what that Imagine plan is going to be. I think I've asked for future agenda item to start looking at project 3.
Yeah, I was just gonna bring that up.
So
Next school year, that's fine.
right, and so to understand which of these may be have some crossover, would imagine would be helpful.
Sure.
Okay, and the other thing, and I know I brought this up in the facilities committee, and it is an idea of how these should be financed. Okay, and I've talked before about, I believe that certain, long-term assets and investments should be financed with a long-term fund. And so that there may be some elements that we ought to be talking about, whether it should be bonded or we can just continue to take this out of the annual tax rate or our fund balance. Fund balance is eventually gonna get to that point after somewhere after the project too. It's gonna get to that point where it's right sized, and then we have to, consider these things just not out of fund balance, but out of our annual revenues. But I think we need, because of our lack of debt, it is healthy for a district to have some debt, but things, and I've talked about it before, the safety, the 10-year safety issues. They come up with the safety on. Those are long-term expenditures, and I've always thought that those are things that should be funded. But I think that, along with this annual report, just not, nothing written in stone, but just some, where you would give direction to the board in terms of how.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. So. Go ahead.
Just a comment, just to echo what Fred said, I do appreciate the work that's gone into this, and I really like the 4 lenses that you used, in terms of looking at this plan, and it is really comprehensive, so just congratulations, thank you for all of that.
That was my comment too, Tony. Really, really thorough job. Appreciate it.
I just would like to say before I forget to say it though, that I was a piece of the team that did all of this. This was definitely very collaborative between the 3 of us and Gilbane and FGM. And we've had various departments come in to talk about the work in their areas. Dr. Jonathan, like this was it needed every member of the team going through that.
So being familiar with 10-year maintenance plans, I mean, they're by necessity very granular. You have to do them this way. And then also they're on a spectrum of pretty real world to speculative, the farther out you get. And you have to mix up these different things. So things like life safety, those are required by law. You have to do them anyway. Some things you have because you have potentially equipment at or near its failure point, like a leaking roof or a boiler. And then some things you have that are more like, boy, eventually this hallway that's looking kind of worn, we got to put this somewhere in the plan. So, you've got at the bottom your recommendation, this is coming back for approval. But all we're really approving is essentially something that's very conceptual. We're not actually approving any real dollars, correct, when this comes back?
Actually, what will happen is this document will not come back in June. And I apologize, maybe I could have worded that more clearly. The authorization then just begin to design and develop the projects for 2025 will come back.
Right, it's that stuff that's right in front of us.
Yes.
That is quote unquote coming back for
Yes.
approval. Okay. So, we're not quite at the point where we're a well-oiled machine, and we've talked about having a checklist of things that always need to be included in any report to the board. Some of those things are going to be different financial reports versus, for example, academic reports. So I think it's a good idea to flag maybe, as Fred has said, where you think there could be some crossover with project 3, but I realize that's a little fuzzy, because you're looking, you've got $3 million line item for interior corridor improvements in 2031. Some of that 3 million could be tied to project 3. Some of it may not necessarily. I mean, each one of these numbers have their own sort of drill down in 3 dimensions to it. But one thing I think we could do is, if you make this every year, I think a statement about how is this different from last year? The total dollars, the allocation of projected funds over time, the allocation of projected time dollars across these 4 categories, which, as I mentioned, these are quite different things. The stuff required by law versus, how do we pursue more sustainability and so forth. I think probably one more comparison to what it would look like last year would be really good to add to this. That's my 2 cents for the moment. I'm sure we've got a lot of more cents.
Can you talk just a little bit more about the stakeholder input you got from departments?
Sure. To give an example with the science department changes upcoming, members of that team have actually been involved in those conversations just to talk about, as we prepare a room for, to be more accessible for a disabled student. We also want to make sure that it can be used to its proper manner in educating students as well.
That's great. I'm really glad you put the getting much more faculty. Is there any way to get student input or do we see student input?
We actually had a walkthrough yesterday with some parents to talk about the accessibility lens and is what we're planning seeming to are we aiming on target to some of the pain points maybe that their students have experienced in the building. And one of the ideas that came out of that was when we present this to the facilities committee, then in future years is to have a student or several students be invited to be part of that committee so that they can provide their input as well. So that will be something that we will be adding in the future.
That's fantastic. I'm really glad to hear that. I don't think that faculty and student input is crucially bad a part of this process. And I'm really happy to hear that it is and really in the future. That's great. So, my only other comment really is, Fred, I had exactly the same take and reading through this. There are so many references to Project 3 that kind of baked into this 10-year plan, which is fine, but it, really my comment is more of a note to my colleagues that we clearly need to elevate and firm up our Project 3 process, and we need to do that in the coming year. It's a little silly to start thinking about that. We haven't broken ground yet. We do that in what, 12 days? The exit?
The 4th, that's right.
The 4th of June is a big day. And I think probably everyone in this room is going to be there. An amazing day for this school, for the future of this community. And despite that, soon after, we're going to have to turn our attention to the beginning of the process of Project 3 and subsequent projects. So that's my thoughts.
Let's see. So, I think I'm just going to reinforce a couple, statements. I've been through many iterations of this over time. Do applaud, a kind of not just do it yourself, throw numbers, but with a little more rigor. So I appreciate the rigor. When I look at a 10-year plan, it's wrong the minute, like any plan, right? And you have additions, deletions, shifts, all kinds of things. And that's very challenging as a board member who sees this stuff once a year or whatever of what's there. And so the challenge is, how can you convey that so that we understand that over time? That's one point. Graham mentioned, how does this compare to last year? Well, I'm just gonna compare. As a board, we have to make decisions, and we've made decisions based on what we knew at the time we made those decisions. We made strategic decisions on the financing and what we're doing in project 2 based on what we had. So we need to know how this compares to what we were at that point, because that was a decision point. If this is different, and most likely it is different, things change, then that's important as we think about the forward financing. So then, the criticality of linking this to what we do as a board, which is we take in data at different points and we have to make these decisions. You've got to help support that, and that's what the ask is of Greg. When we last made a levy decision, when we last made a financing decision, we had data. How is this data different than that? Is what we need to know. Because then we need to adjust. So I think as we talk about it, and we've talked about tools and communicating, just having a new plan every time, and it looks nice, it smells nice, but it isn't integrated with what our decision-making processes are. So that's the challenge I see in this work. We know every year we'll get a slice of it to vote on, right? And sometimes the slice will be a years of this, sometimes it will be a bigger capital project, but each one of those is a point at which we're being asked to decide, and we need to connect those dots.
Sure, and we'll do, I'm looking at it now, we can use a different color to do it. There is on the summary page, what the prior year's anticipated spend was. And what we can do is break down then changes in the projects from year to year as well. So you have both the dollars and projects that maybe have shifted from 1 year off or 1 year back, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, prior year, but I keep saying decision-making points, right? When we decided what was it. So that I just kind of linking what's in my head as I look at this, as we try to meet in the middle, right? Yep. The middle's right here. All right. That was my input. So I think I appreciate your work, and we continue to improve in this area, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we are gonna jump to the informational items, just to see if there's anything here that needs discussion or question in that, then allowing our some folks to go, and we'll come back to our favorite topic of board governance. I know, I was looking for Bob. So with that said, we have our 3 informational. I will, the post-secondary pathways, and I'm gonna give a little bit of color commentary because you probably don't have to get up. I don't know, we'll see. In prior, we've had these as discussion topics, but we are changing our ways, and I'm just trying to, name it as it is. We are saying that if we're not making a vote, we've already voted on it, and it's just a refresh of things. It is up for us to look at it, read it, etc., but we're not going to go through the formality of presentation. But you're welcome to inquire, and if there are things that are worthy of, that are worthy of discussion, we can have it. But so post-secondary pathways, any questions? I would just say awesome work. It truly is inspirational to see what we're doing in this area as a district. So
I would echo that, and I think one of the things that heartens me is to see. I mean, it looks like in terms of participation, we're well ahead of some of our peer districts. It looks, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the numbers are, we're at about 210 participants in pathways, and the number of our peer districts coming close. Am I reading the data right? Dr. Green, so.
Dr. Lang is on, so she is.
Okay.
Oh. Yeah, I had that question as well, just to make sure I calibrate between participants and maybe, I forget what it's called.
The CCPE, those are different.
Yeah.
Dr. Lang, do you want to speak to that?
Yes, I can. Hi, everyone. The participant data that's in the board report includes the students who are taking any of the courses within the 2 years of coursework required to earn a CCPE. Completing the 2 years of coursework is one of the several requirements in getting a CCPE. So our hope is the more students who participate and complete the 2 years, but also the 6 credits of early college credit, the 2 team-based challenges, the 60 hours of work-based learning, and also meeting the criteria of the college and career readiness indicators. Those are the students who will be graduating with a college and career pathway endorsement.
I would then just ask from the report standpoint, because I got, maybe schnookered too. There's a table that shows our participation and then a table that shows our peers in what their CCPEs are, and we're not in it, and it's like, okay. So we just can put apples to apples and get a better sense, but either way, it's awesome. Thank you. Others? Okay. Any questions on the 2024 recognition of faculty members for tenure?
Nothing other than just congratulations.
And lastly, the third quarter variance report. Okay, I think we're clean with that. So we will now, you can release the staff, and we will move to board governance.
During the transition, if any staff wants to stay, feel free.
You don't have to go.
So I really, I think there are the general theme here is board goals. And I see really 3 pieces of discussion we need to have. And I'm going to go in this order unless otherwise. One is a discussion on board self-evaluation, okay? And the process that we're going to go through. So that's kind of how do we get to the end zone there? And that's for us, that's a process question. How we're going to do it, not the details. The second is then really a dive into our goals and really go through them one by one. Where are we? And kind of an update, because we've kind of reached the end. There might be some tidy up work, but it's kind of where are we, just so that we know. And then, I guess as a third one is any real detail on some of them. There may be need for a discussion on 1 or 2. I certainly have one as it relates to the committee discussion, so I have that queued up. Does that work for folks? Okay. So let's talk about process and board self-evaluation. And I believe in governance, we had we had a goal of you know, of in terms of self-evaluation. So process wise, we have our super eval, which is applicable in this capacity, okay? Okay.
So is this a performance management system or what is, I guess, super eval?
It's a performance management tool.
Tool, right, so you can do goals, you can do tracking, you can do all that stuff in the, within the system.
Well, it is more, and this is it is more, I would call it standards, areas of responsibility and focus and assessment in those standards. And so it's a good ask, Audrey, because in some cases, in prior memory, you know, there are some things that are kind of standards in that we as a district don't necessarily, it doesn't apply to us in total, but we're using the template that is provided by the entity which is tied into school boards as a whole.
Yeah.
There's that component of, you know, and you know, in terms of just general performance in how we are and you know, managing our in our major tasks as a school board.
Okay.
And then there's a piece to it, which is how did we do against our goals?
Okay.
So, but that part is not embedded in the tool itself. It just asks the questions. That's why we're gonna have this separate discussion really about our goals. Our goals are not embedded in the.
They're not in the tool, right?
In the tool. They're not in the tool.
That's what I want.
And
It has standards for us to compare ourselves to.
Yes, that's right.
Again, right, okay.
We might find, having not used the tool for the board self kind of eval process, we might find a way that there is a way to log in those tools. There is a way for me to put in, for example, my goals.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that the same thing is probably true, but we haven't simply utilized it yet.
Okay.
Yeah, the goal would be to have our goals in there so that we're doing it. Right now, we're having the discussion as two pieces.
Right.
That are, and we need to be looking at both, but our goals are not in the tool right now.
Okay.
Okay.
No, I'm curious about, have you previewed that portion of the tool? Board's portion, is it very similar to the superintendent's?
Conceptually, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if we can pull it up or not.
I'm gonna take a look.
I mean, we can get it on the board here. I don't know, can you do that or not?
Unfortunately, so there's I'm pretty familiar with this because of working on the edit that I do.
Yeah.
And so there was a 4-step process that for the board to go through for the board self-eval. The self-eval itself, the board evaluation of data that's submitted as during those self-evaluations is the second step. And then the third step is the identification of annual school board objectives.
Okay.
And so, but unfortunately, just the access that we have to it right at this moment, we can't go in and take a look at each step until we finish the step in front of it. So they really keep you on task with this thing. So just for right now, that's what I'm saying.
Well, it's something we can look at more offline too, because if there's a way to actually enter our goals,
Absolutely.
into the tool and then track them, it just makes it easier.
So do we do this individually or do we do
Yes.
this?
It's the same, the process is the same as with the superintendent review. Here, can I at least just look at the first sec? I'm just trying to, just so that we're.
So. Oh, maybe you can't log in because this is my view, not yours.
Well, I'll be you.
Yeah. Yeah, I was,
Super, say yes about that, and access to this, I don't, yeah, I can't get into your stuff. So I'm just gonna kind of cover this real quickly, because the sections of measurement are vision, leadership, and accountability, board governance and policy, communication and community relations, fiscal resources, staff recruitment, and environmental and ethical leadership. So that's what the standards that they've categorized it as. And within each one, there are a series of questions that are asked, and you can answer it from one end to the other. So it's meant in this context to address how we work together and how we function, okay, with some degree of process to it, okay. But as you listened to that, there's nothing, there's not, this goal, that goal, this goal. So it's two pieces to the puzzle.
Got it.
Okay. So what I'm going to recommend, and it just needs to be doctored, is we need to do the first phase, which is this kind of everyone, give us a chance to self-reflect and put it there, and including any questions about our goals, which we'll talk about. So that is the first step in, as Greg defined, was the 4-step process. Okay, you get out of there, right?
So we'll go in and do our own assessment.
So we will go in and do our own assessment, and that's the first step. And then really, because this is geared at building goals, so we're changing the order. Okay, because we've got our goals, and this kind of assessment piece is usually what, we would have done this before we even started our goals last year. And we've done various assessments. So my ask is that we will have a date, and I put a date of July 1st on this because I want to focus on getting the superintendent piece done, right? And then we will ask the board members to complete this section, and then we will do a similar thing. We will kind of do a comparison, and then we will do a review of our goals specifically. How did we do versus what we said we were going to do? And then once we get that done, the fourth step is, or the third step is, then we can say, now what do we need to do next year? What do we need to do differently? So we're going to kind of move from this year into next year in this process. Does that make sense to folks? So the ask as it relates to the tool itself will be to do the board self-evaluation right now.
Right, and we'll get an email, Lisa, about that.
I will, yeah, when
the
I control that, I
Okay,
just
got
need to knock it and say, you're gonna get an email. I just wanted to have at least a preliminary discussion versus just sending stuff out, okay? So that covers step one in the process. To me, and I know we're gonna I'm going forward before we go backward. The intent of this is we need to start next year with our goals, done and in place in August, and not in November or December, and not, still deliberating and changing and thinking what we need to do. We need to be a little more on task, and
timely.
And focus on, doing it versus perfection, et cetera. So we need to get the goals done for next year so that we can have 10 months to, work at them. Okay? So that is the first segment in this, which, and this is our first time using this particular tool. So I
am open to any way, that we can get what we want done. This is when I'm not wed to it. I can tell you that we've used it for the superintendent now at least 3 years. Okay, or this will be the 3rd year, and it's night and day versus what we used to do. I mean, what we used to do was a tremendous burden on the whoever was the president or whatever who had to play administrator in doing this stuff. It really allows you to focus on the work and not the administration. And I'm hoping that this tool will do the same for the board, but it's to be determined. Okay.
The only thing that I'm very interested to see this too. My thought, I just had something popped in my brain. And it could pop out just as quickly. That, one of the problems with the setting of board goals last year, I think, was the fact that we had new board members. And there's an orientation. There's definitely a learning curve. And I'm wondering if we ought to be looking at board goals that may extend over a 2-year period.
Actually, Greg, you're actually where my head is. We talk about that. The goals that we set are not goals that you achieve in a 10-month period. And my experience with goals is that depending on what you're focused on, they will shift and go to the next level. But I've had goals for teams I've kept for like 3-4 years. And every year it was the next phase or next, element that needed to be put in place as you build the foundation. And I do think that our goals are complicated enough in some of them and long-term enough that they should extend at least over 2 years. And I don't think we need to create brand new, a whole set of brand new goals.
Yeah.
There's lots of work that we still have to get done.
And if you look at all the goals, I mean, a lot of them get done. We started on late. I think the other thing we're missing is goals tracking.
Yeah.
Every meeting.
But
We're
that,
missing a goals tracker.
Well, that's what I'm talking about the system, that you put goals in there, because if you have a tool that you can put them into, then you can do updates into the tool and be able to, and to get into a habit of on a regular basis doing updates and being able to add that to the agenda for discussion.
Not to chime in and necessarily weigh on the process you all use, but to explain it, to further to speak a little bit to this instrument that we have access to. That is the intent of what we have here. The idea is that the board, I'd like to see the dates that we're kind of programmed in here for the board to look at. The board self-eval is something that is done at the end of a school year, right? And then the board evaluates their data. They identify board objectives, and that's slated here, pre-programmed in to be done by September 1st of each year. And then there's only one step left for that school year for the board to do, and that's exactly what you just said, is monitor progress on objectives and determine results. So I think this tool will work for that ongoing monitoring purpose, but we just have to kind of work through it to see what it looks like. So if that's helpful.
And so I have 2 comments to weigh in on this. One, I agree with the shared comment that these goals that we have are not necessarily carved out for, although we may have put dates, they're not, we got to look at the size of the bite, and I like to have multi-year goals, but you at least then have milestones that are within that purview. I think, we shouldn't be bouncing around in things, but we need to be able to measure and show progress, which kind of gets to Graham's comment. The second question I'm going to throw out there, and it's to me one I mentioned to you, Greg, which and this is, what do we want to be as a board? Okay, it's a serious question, because as we set board goals, okay, there are, do we want to be a working board? Do we want to be an advisory board? Do we want to be there's multiple functions and levels at which you can function, okay? And if you look at the board, what the roles of the board are, right? They change. We've taken in this last year a heavy chunk towards board governance. It's been a theme of ours, which is us here rolling up our sleeves and trying to systematize and improve the board, but that's a working board. Okay, that's not let the administration do the work and we'll come back to it. We've assigned ourselves work. And I can tell you that in my time on the board, I've lived through different cycles. And, there's no right answer. What does a board want to do? That's what we certainly want to, address the main issues of, our students and our facilities and those things that we need to do, but we've taken some pretty hefty chunks in this area, and we need to be cognizant of it, and that is how much of an appetite and where it fits, and especially when you start off in you only have a few months to do it. So I just keep that in mind as we go and we look at what we said we were gonna do, our assignment, and what we did. So I don't have an answer, but that's up to, and it doesn't need to be all one, all the other. I'm just sharing my experience, and Graham, you've been on for different timeframes, and I certainly welcome others, of what this board will do versus other boards you've been on and what the needs are.
I think you're right to acknowledge this point, the difference between a more advisory board and more working board. This board is like way on the advisory end, I think. I've been in insane levels of working also, and we don't want to be there. I think the stuff we've done to document the norms and our operating rhythm, that was essential. And we had to do that because we were floating in space with no tether. Because this is also going to be good for how we conduct ourselves next year, but future boards when we're all long gone. The only thing that's missing now is sort of codification in an easy reference. And that's what I'm building actually in PowerPoint, just because visuals are a lot of times easier to absorb than just, here's a 2-page thing of text. So that's on its way. It's gonna come out soon. That's more about how we operate. The goals we invented last October, pretty ambitious, a lot of them, and necessitate a certain amount of work. But it was easy to find ourselves in a situation like, oh dang, I was supposed to get to that, or shoot, we set that date for we were going to do this, because I was just looking through them myself, and I think all we're really missing is that tracker piece. We all have in our business world experience forms of this. In my world, we call them rocks. We look at it every week. We revisit them every quarter. We affirm which ones we completed and which ones we may carry into the next quarter. To your point about they don't always fit neatly. I think if we document our norms and our operating rhythm, and we add a tracker element, I think we'll be much better set up to be effective on goals. And I agree with you also, let's nail them down in August, before the fall.
And as you were talking, I was thinking, about coming in where we were and kind of where we are. I think there's lots of work we kind of like to finalize and just get it. And they hear our norms, here's our governance. We started looking at our committee pieces, and we've done. I felt like there's a lot of foundational work that needs to be done in order to be able to just operate more effectively. And I do think that the board's done a lot of work around that over this past year, and that can help carry us into next year.
I agree. It's been a lot of platform foundation building.
Yes.
And frankly, the fact that this thing has a component that's super valuable for board evaluation, that's great. It's a one less wheel we have to.
Yeah, and if we can, even from the standpoint of getting, from a tracking standpoint, we need to take full advantage of it, and we need to. Unfortunately, as Greg said, it's one of these things you can't go to chapter 4 to see the whole. You got to kind of work your way through it, which is learning. Okay, good discussion, and appreciate it. And what I want to do now is the tracker review of our goals. Okay, so survey says we had, one, I'm gonna go through our goals and just call them up and just so that we know where we are. What needs, what got done, what didn't get done. And I would say, we're not gonna decide today that it is part of our next year goals, but we can at least say, yeah, this is start, stop, continue, right? This is something that we just need to keep moving, and we'll keep it in mind as we fabricate or assemble next year. So goal number one that I have, I hope is the racial equity goal. And I'm not gonna, does everyone have these or not? Okay.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, well,
Are you reading off of the PDF draft 3 or something else?
Yeah, will you do that? So I'm gonna keep going while he does that so we don't lose time. So racial equity, there really were 4 objectives identified. The first was, and I'm gonna focus on, well, it was inter-school, okay? And it talked about when requesting changes to resources, all administrative departments will submit reports in compliance with our equity policy. So this is really just assuring that the we're keeping equity in our decision-making process, and we have a process to do that. And the date was January of 2024. So, question is, where are we? And we'll wait for Dr. Johnson just so that we have. I'm gonna. In my opinion, that has been incorporated in the dialogue, right? I mean, we've seen, there was the presentation by, when was it? When we talked about the resource allocation of how we would, the administration is going to be building more into the tool to have all resources go up against our policy.
Yeah, we've had multiple things that have been updated. So that was one. There was the out of school suspensions. There was looking at kind of what's happening with the curriculum. I mean, so we have gotten different reports throughout, or it's been, I guess, integrated to different reporting that's gotten from the administration over the course of the year.
The second component is what was inter-school, really looking at our relationship with our analogous school districts in this area. And it has a due date of June, but to my knowledge, this one has not moved.
I don't recall that I've seen a update, but they had one else gone, but I don't recall update of.
Here he is.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that you were really waiting for me because that was, the formatting from each of the sheets is so different that it doesn't really work. There's a beautiful page 1, for example, and then you have other pages that have hardly anything on it. It doesn't work. All right, so I can work on each page. It'll take me a while to format.
Well, we'll keep going. Greg, we're gonna just flip back just to get your kind of consensus. So,
okay,
the racial equity goal, one was intra-school, and really it's about resource allocation, and there was that was the present, the work as it relates to the my brain is the evidence-based funding
absolutely
model with
We presented that in February.
Yeah, with enhancements in terms of having racial be part of that
Yeah, absolutely.
discussion. So that was done that was February, okay?
And it's been ongoing throughout our funding
Yeah.
process.
Okay. So, the second one was really the inter-school, and actually I've got my other note, which is, one of the things to define was to kind of get the tri-board equity, ongoing. And that was you, Fred, and you, Jonathan, and I don't know if that, and that one's still in June, have we?
Well, just recently.
Yeah.
And I've reached out to Jonathan's going to reach out to, I don't know if he did it or not yet, but reach out to 97 and I'm reaching out to 90. In terms to find out if there's an appetite.
Okay.
To reconvene. And so we haven't heard back. I think the summer is, if there's interest in summer, probably a good time. There's not a whole heck of a lot of them have to, at least to get and have conversations moving forward.
So that's a kind of one that's in play and probably should, we.
I think even if it's just an open line of communication between the districts. And I think that, I really think that's vital.
Okay. Go ahead. The third piece of this one was joint efforts really with the other government and charitable institutions in the area of racial equity. Adopting a framework of shared metrics within those. And I would say my perspective is it's on the discussion and it's part of each, but there's not a collective way. I think through some of the entities that we participate in, Council of Governance, iGov, these are topics of discussion, but it isn't there's not a common framework, magic bullet, here's what we're all saying the same thing.
Right. I agree.
And that one's a pretty, big challenge just because each is kind of doing its own work.
I think that may be one when we have more discussions with us, starts to continue about how,
What do we need to
what do you
do?
need from that, like what do we want from it, what should it be?
Yeah. Okay, and then the fourth one was training, and we have had discussions on this. We've had, some individual opportunities where I know a number of us have participated in courageous conversations.
Right, yeah, we'll do that in January.
Yes, I mean, I've done it previously, so we've done that. But I think really the task at hand is collectively to do this. And I believe it's just something we need to put on an agenda and make it happen.
Yeah.
And Fred and I think both have the experience back a number of years ago of doing that, where, we just got to block away the time and do it.
Great. Dr. Applewhite was kind enough to connect Jonathan and I with the facilitator. The suggestion that we talked about this a few months ago, the suggestion from the board was to include intersectionality in that training. Dr. Applewhite's suggestion, when I reached out to her, I said, please be candid, but as you observe us, what is a training topic that you would recommend that we take on. What was our blind spot? And her response was, well, I said, that's the privilege. That we were trained. So those are the two topics that we're going to talk about with Jonathan and I are going to set time to talk about with this facilitator next week. So yeah, we still have to find a date, we still have to set aside time, but we're at least trying to push that forward.
And I would say that, you know, again, from the, what that certainly, I would say is a continue, right? I mean,
Yes.
the timeframe.
Yeah.
So, okay. We're gonna keep moving, just if that's all right, because we got a lot more to cover. Communications. So, there was the, dashboard. Develop a public dashboard of key metrics for the district and school performance. So, where do we stand on this?
So we obviously don't have a dashboard, but
Yep.
this deck that's coming together includes the elements of the dashboard that CFC recommended we include. And while it may be static at this point in slides, it's essentially a paint by numbers for the administration to actually turn into a web-based dashboard.
Because we had that in multiple areas, there are some things that the administration did pull, because they did in terms of data, and then Tim and I had conversations with Craig as well about other things and where not only what data, what metrics we might include, but where we might include them to make things for easier access. So there is a lot of work around this. I feel like it needs to be pulled together. Right. You know, but there has been work done, I think, to really identify what those metrics need to be across the different areas.
It's really built the P2 dashboard, those pieces of it.
Well, specific to the communications dashboard, Audrey and I saw a mock-up of that.
Right.
It looks great.
Just gonna say that.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think that's what attaches to this specific goal.
Yeah, this is kind of the big picture, right?
Right. That would include pulling in, for example, what is happening on some of the other ones as well. We talked about how do we kind of consolidate everything together, so people
What
can
feeds into
access
what?
what feeds to what, right? See it on one slide.
So you said you saw a prototype?
Yeah.
From,
Greg, yeah, we actually met with him, Tim and I, and Karen.
oh, it's his secrets, okay, you guys have your own.
I don't share everything.
You guys have your own secret sauce, okay? So I'll mark that one as nothing done because.
What we need to do is get it live, but the team has done some good work.
So there's a prototype.
Yeah, there is.
And then once that's done, just so that I'm making sure, because when we talked dashboard extensively when we set our goals, and I agree, there's a lot of pieces. So CFC is the financial piece. Project 2 is a piece. These are all things that could ultimately then be pushed into that one-stop shopping, but that's okay. So good. I think we're there. So then for this one,
You need to get to the point about sharing it and going live with it.
It's still an open goal.
Right, so
it's an open goal, but there's activity against it, and it's a goal we should bring into the end zone.
Yeah,
absolutely.
and in addition to regular tracking, like every meeting, we should be seeing how we're doing tracking on these, and it should be in our face every meeting.
Yes.
And then the other thing we're missing is owners. Owners need to be named, because if you look at this document, the owners on it.
Yeah, there was a tab that Tom had set up with the assignments, but the numbers.
Right here. Yes.
Right, but it's all gonna be in one place.
Yeah, I agree.
So I just want to chime in really quick. So again, this is I think a really, really apt example of an area where we would dramatically benefit from updating our systems and just using something like Monday in concert with Tableau. It would just having these systems to as our sort of hearth that we're gathering around would make all this whole dialogue and this whole, would provide a structure and a process that I think we need to this going forward. And so I'm happy to take the lead in putting that together. I mean, I'd have questions about, if I mean, Greg, what does that budget look like for those type of operational systems, those type of programs for the board to use? Can we just piggyback, tether to any existing subscriptions that your administration has to use those type of suites, or how does that work?
In order to give you a complete answer, why don't we go offline and talk about that? We currently have and utilize Tableau. Not familiar with Monday, not familiar with cost, or there's a whole other question there also about in-house technical support needed to stand up a new system that we have to put within our overall scope as a district to figure out how that all fits. But you did name Tableau. We do have Tableau as part of what we utilize for our data tracking in the district. So at least we're sharing halfway there. So let's talk offline and see what we can do with that. Okay.
Okay. Next up. So I'm just kind of, the note is we've moved the ball, the goal's still there. We need to, this is a continue. And, yes, we need to understand what the right platform is, et cetera, but we need to keep it going. Okay. Next up is our goal on community outreach. And this one was, Audrey, you and Marianne, right? We're earmarked.
Yeah.
And I know some stuff is done, so can you?
Yeah, sure. We did get data from the administration just in terms of level of family engagement and looking at it down to the precinct level to give us a sense of where we have opportunities and put together a draft strategy that I shared with you earlier in the year. However, if we started working on this, we started talking more with Greg and with Karen around the other work being done from a communications perspective, and just the need to make sure that what we're doing as a board is aligned with what the school is doing more broadly from a communications perspective. So we've started working with Karen, and there were a couple of focus groups that were held with parents of color. And we also have now a new smaller kind of communications team we're putting together, working group. And our first meeting, I think, is later in June or July coming up. So we're really kind of aligning and making sure that our outreach from a board standpoint is in alignment with what's happened with the broader outreach area that the school is doing. So this is a goal that will continue, and we're just moving along and being on the converging path as it relates to the outreach efforts.
Okay, so I think from a refresh, a little shift,
right?
Because I totally would agree. I mean, we need to make sure, and that's why these dialogues, we need to make sure that we are in alignment with the administration.
So one example, one of our ideas was to work with community congregations as a way to get out to community members that might not necessarily hear from the board of us, and found out that Greg had already been invited to speak with community congregations. So I attended that to be able to, just be, to listen and to be there and to see and looking for opportunities. And I would also encourage people to come to the day in our village. If you haven't signed up yet, again, just in terms of our visibility and our being out there. So just looking for opportunities for us to connect more with the community to do that partnership with the administration.
Okay. All right, I'm going to keep moving in the essence of speed. And I, would agree with Graham's comment, and that this fits to the norms, which is this dialogue, and we needed to have it to do it. Mm-hmm. This needs to be a, every 2 month refresh, every 1 month.
I think it's like a quick hit.
Quick hit. I mean,
updates.
Yeah, quick update, but that's why we need the standing section on governance.
I'll use a Gantt chart with stoplight.
Yeah.
It's either on track, yellow, or red.
Right.
And
we may do
yellows
deep
and reds
dive
get
quarterly,
talked
but we should be doing something just on a basis.
Okay. Next up, is facilities. And so there were really 4 items tagged there, which is one is a facilities dashboard.
It's up and running, up and live.
So that one's alive. Track and field project completed on time, on budget, without injury. I kind of pulled my hamstring running around. So just like, no. I think that one, we still are owed a final report. So in my mind, that one's not done until the administration comes to us with a final report. But yes.
Yeah. I want to go back to that.
Yes.
The dashboard's up and running, and I assume that as soon as we start spending money, we just start filling in.
Correct. Right now, it's a wish list item.
Right, but I mean, to find it, you have to really dig through the website. And I would hope that we could have on our main page a link.
Got it.
To it.
Yeah, and that's what we were talking about on the broad
did say that.
communication spread around having something that can help everyone easily find information like that and have those.
You have to
things.
go into the master facilities, find the dashboard. But if we can just hit a little button, it says, Project 2 financial data.
Great.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so track and field, we just need a final report from the administration. Sustainability plan finalized and successfully incorporated into project 2. So this is really your geothermal work, right?
Correct.
So I think we that one is well on it's well on its way, and then there's next generations to that, and certainly there will be carryover for that, and then project 2 delivered on time, on budget. Really, this is now become here's where we are on a quarterly basis, so it becomes more of a monitor than a build. Okay, next, finance. We had and Graham, you've already talked to this briefly, but this was CFC with the financial dashboard, so.
We have their ideas, we just haven't turned it into the mock-up, so that's something we have to still do.
Okay. B was the funding plan for really longer term, and we even talked about that a little bit earlier. I mean,
yeah, and I don't really think we've put CFC to this explicit task yet. It's only we're on this meeting every 3 months.
And this is clearly one in terms of when we talked about from an appetite standpoint, talking about how we're funding project 3 when we're getting ready to break ground for project 2 and dealing with other things. Our appetite might have been a little bit hefty.
No, I'll tell you something. I think the big mistake we made with project 2 was not addressing it. But once the plans and bids and everything was set for project 1, we waited until project 1 was complete. And we lost a whole year.
And then lastly here, which we've kind of already talked about in this, which is the equitable resource distribution, and that one was slated for February, and that was presented. And there's work to be done.
Years of work.
There's work to be done,
The
but
roadmap has
the
been
roadmap is there. Okay. All right, next, governance. What's governance? We haven't talked about governance. So 1A is the norms, evaluation methods, etc. So
we've met the letter of the objective, which is we are aligned and we've documented them.
Yeah.
Now we're just going to make the documents a little more absorbable. So I feel like we're kind of done with that.
And for that one, and we are talking about evaluation because we're trying to simplify but make it, something we're doing on a regular basis. So that one. Committees, liaisons, and et cetera. So that one, I would say, is a meaty one. And I want to clarify, where it stands is the one pager. We do not have all the one pagers. So I need to identify, but there was assignments, and we need those to be completed for us to go to the next step. I'm looking at the ones who have not.
You have mine as of a couple hours ago.
Okay, I'm not real time here.
But
if you have not submitted any, then you are delinquent, because I think they were distributed to all.
The one pages are good.
Yeah.
They're more like a reference, but that issue of have we determined the right mix of committee and liaison assignments? It feels like we're kind of there. I mean, aren't we deployed?
Actually, they're mostly there. I feel like, being able to go by in some of the details about the reasons why some committees exist and what they do, that might kind of help us finalize this. I mean, I feel like we have assignments, but we haven't gone through and said, is there anything that we need to stop relative to what we're doing with the committees?
Okay, I thought we'd sort of already had a talk that said, all right, we gotta send 2 people to this. This thing is only when requested. And this thing we're taking a board member off. I could have sworn we had a talk.
I don't remember anything coming off. Maybe it's
Well, I think, that we informally, I mean, we went through a full review, right? And then that led to some fireworks. And part of that was the assignment that let's just make sure we understand what you each did, and that's what this one pager is about. But concurrent with that, we have said that, there's nothing that says that a board member is going to be at every meeting of the booster club or whatever. I mean, that there's administration there. There needs to be a board contact that shows up once, they know their name, they know their presence, but it is not their expectation to be there at every meeting. I mean, that's because we have our committee assignments where we are obligated to be and we have work to do. So that was decided, Graham, which was
I'm sorry, that is kind of, there are things that we have to be at. I think there are other things that the board has.
Absolutely,
yes,
because of policy and such like that, and we need to make sure that those aren't short shifted. There's work to be done still, and we still need to get the one pagers, and there's side benefits as we've talked to other governmental entities, which is just part of this is sharing and letting others know how can you get involved, et cetera. So there's tangential benefits to this. So we're making progress. It's just slow plodding through it. Okay. And then the third one here was I'm going to call it student on the board, right? And we got to the point, we had some initial discussions, and there were
recommendation.
Yeah.
And I worked on some additional details, so we can finish moving that forward.
So I think we're getting closer to come back to the book, but we could. So
I think probably in August, board conversation on that is most realistic.
Okay. And these are not in, school environment. There were two key elements. One was mental wellness practices for students, et cetera. And this one, when we set the goal, you know, the question was how much did we need an ad hoc committee, et cetera? The administration, I thought did a great introductory job of just outlining the as is of what we have. And my recall is that we don't need another committee. I mean, we have the work ongoing. So I think that one, you know, I don't know what others feel in that. I think the administration, we have a full portfolio of supports and activities. Is it ever enough? Probably not, but
we actually have a report coming to the board in June on this exact topic. It aligns with one of my goals, and so we'll be sharing that with the board. That will help to kind of package up this year as we move forward. So there's absolutely work to be done. Information will be coming soon.
okay. And then the next one is the school environment, the safety issues. And I would say this one probably has been a bumpy road.
No, that's fair. We did an initial presentation in October.
Yeah.
We, shortly after this goal was going, gave an update on kind of our systemic responses or needs really after the incident we had in February 14th. And the exact answer I gave to mental wellness is applicable to this one. We will be giving an update with recommendations to the board in June. Yeah, okay. And we might need a committee there, right? We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, that
We'll
one,
see how that
obviously, okay.
I'll hopefully do the same.
I'm just monitoring to make sure that I'm looking at paper and not at the TV, so. We're at the end of the page number 7 for mine, which is student achievement, so. This is probably, equitably maximize student potential, which is big. As evidenced by closing the opportunity gap measured by established metrics. I think this is, yes, it's it.
I guess the question I have is, they're using measured by established metrics with the change from the SAT to the A's. How bad is it? Put a wrench in the wheel.
Yeah, there needs to be more information on that topic. I'm tempted to go down that road now in conversation, but I'll tell you, right now I'm more optimistic. That we'll be able to get a reasonable understanding of student growth so that the metrics that we've established in our strat plan just recently can move forward without really much hiccup.
Okay, so who made that decision?
ACT? Yeah, the State Board of Education.
And I think the State Board of Education needs to create a mechanism that equates one and the other.
There is actually
You understand what I'm
saying? Oh, there is a convergence formula available for us that we can utilize. It is designed for individual students and not at least to the extent that we're understanding by right now, and not necessarily for like broad kind of groups of students or collective students goal setting, right? But let's pause that for a little while. We're going to keep investigating. It's exactly in that area that is the reason I said there's some hope for us. I think we're going to be able to make some headway on that during the summer, so that when we get into the fall and we start to get some of these test scores in for practice tests, we'll be able to plug them into students' previous performance on practice SATs to funnel in here. But consider that a work in progress. Okay, that's a really important question. It's probably one of the most important things that we're going to be playing with this summer.
So, in terms of, there are the various reports, I guess I'm thinking of the freshman curriculum reports, which is, covered down below. And that's really focusing on the specific impact of that cohort as it moves forward. So that one, the reports I think have been there and we continue. And I'm just kind of looking through these. The just today was the post-secondary, right?
Correct.
So that one we can look at. This one that's the alternative learning approaches.
It needs help. I need help. Yeah, I need more clarification from the board as to what this is. The inclusive of is a little empty. So.
I think you're gonna take a hit on your evaluation for not having that done yet.
Yeah, well, I'll be happy with that. That's so I do need some clarity on that.
Yeah, that one's kind of, because it's due. And we don't know, right?
I had a good month here to crank this out.
You got June is pretty. One calendar flip away, Palsy. The other one, I'm looking at D, Greg.
Yeah.
Which is, the kind of a report on service utilization. Has there been any progress in that?
We also have in the month of June at the end of the year.
A lot of year-end stuff coming up.
Well, it's a time to do these things. So we have our multi-tiered systems of support end of year kind of compilation that we will have in the month of June that we can share with the board as well.
Okay, so that covers that. And
Can I
then
go back to the earlier one, the one you
Please.
said, turn to more clarity, just going back to looking at our notes and
Yeah,
as I recall about kind of innovations or new things that are being tried or kind of like where, so if I think about the conversation Greg we have community council and how Dr. Fiorenzo was talking about how do you sort of look at, sort of student progress, or,
Yes.
So anyway, I'm thinking like if it was like those new kind of things that the school is trying or experimenting with that would be innovative, that's what I recall that one being about.
That helps me a lot. I do recall that conversation even during the board retreats.
Yeah.
When we talk about alternative learning approaches, however, to school, that has a phrase that has there's a specific connotation to that about not being educated within the walls of OPRF.
Okay,
right? You see what I'm saying?
So maybe we can
That's
change
not what this
that
is.
word, because I was looking at our other notes, and
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
plan about kind of how it may include some of those things, but it can include other things as well that are innovative.
Well, let's spend some time fleshing that out. But you're right, there are things in that. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, and then I think I'm just clicking through. The last piece I have is instructional technology. Did we get a report on that?
You have not gotten a report on that. this year.
I didn't think so.
But it may though.
Will we be getting one?
No, actually, I'm gonna give you a different answer. I have not been part of trying to package this up for the board. I can't give you the same answer on that one. So that's but also just note that the inclusive column is also blank. So no, I don't have a
give us a report inclusive of nothing. You've succeeded.
It's gonna be a good one. Yeah, that is certainly something we can put together. But it's not on our current rate, so I can't give you a timeline.
Okay. So I'd say, that is something that we've kind of had as a periodic check-in, because my recall of this is we got into all kinds of thinking and probably too much into your realm of instruction, so this was kind of a backing off, and it looks like we backed off one click too far. So, with all the changes in technology, keeping this, we were intentionally talking about AI. So I would just say this is a rollover item to make sure we cover. We've had reports and there's been, progress. So I have that as a kind of a continue, but not in June. Okay.
That will not be in June.
Okay. So, we've been through the deck and I think our introductory comments were agreement. I mean, there's, you know, some of these are lofty and some of these are foundational, you know, dashboards, and they don't materialize until they're done, but there is a lot of work that needs to be done to get to that point. So I do think when we go to the what's next phase of this goal setting process, you know, we have a foundation that we're starting from, which should make it, you know, I'd say quicker and easier. We can use this foundation to frame up what we want to carry forth. I do think we need to think, are there other things, you know, that are missing here? We don't want to be tunnel visioned into this, but I'm looping back to what I was saying, process. So we have a chance now to evaluate. It's good in the context of what we said. We can look at these goals, and I do agree with what Graham's saying, and you know what Jonathan is saying in other ways of we've got to make it easier, the tools and the way we are doing this thing. We can't be doing it with sledgehammers and ice picks so that we can know where we are. And I think it's been clunky, but it's and we need to make it less clunky, but we still need to keep moving. So I think that covers the goals review. What we can do is look at, see if we can kind of score it, you know, do a green, yellow, red, just to kind of give us where we are, and then we can use that as a framework. And then we each need to keep this in mind as we're doing the evaluation, and then we'll have a consolidation. So that I'm going to put green, yellow, red. I've always liked those. Stuff like that. Okay. Other comments, thoughts, questions?
You mean on this?
On this?
Yeah.
No.
Marianne.
Thank you. Marianne.
You on
We
mute?
can't hear you.
Sorry,
There you
I got
go.
it. So just one quick thing, and I'm sorry if I missed it. We had talked about doing sort of a visioning thing, like the retreat thing we did, like perhaps annually, and I just wasn't sure if that's formalized anywhere in here. I just didn't want it to fall off the radar. So that was my question. But like, I don't know whether we made a decision about that, whether I just wanted to check on it, basically.
Yeah, I was gonna Graham put a document together.
Yeah,
Oh,
under
okay.
norms and cadence,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
it's not a goal, but it's really how we do our work, right?
Okay.
It's an operating rhythm document.
Right,
Room
that's what-
number 3.
Yeah. So it is captured in that
Okay.
work.
That's great. I
And
think
we have yet to, well, I said it, but we have yet to kind of say, here it is, we all accept that, and that will be the kind of the consensus, Marianne, to
Yeah.
address, I think, your ask.
Yeah, I think, what I would sort of say about all of this is I really appreciate all of the structural, systemic stuff that you guys have put so much work into, and I think it will be very helpful to future boards. I think the piece of board work that, I don't know, interests me the most, I guess, is that kind of deeper digging into the mission, and are we actually it's just really easy to get caught up in the everyday going from month to month, school year schedule kind of thing. So I just think it's really important that we build in those pauses to reflect and sort of check, are we still wanting to, do we still agree that we're on the right track, I guess. So that's all. The rest of this is great.
Okay.
Marianne, I was just gonna add, as you're saying that, I'm thinking of organizations, for example, that will do mission moments or do different things, or do some kind of quick dive into a reminder of why you do what you do. And how examples of how that's happening, right? So
Yeah,
I hate
and
to say
yeah, and I think, I think someone, I don't know, Graham maybe said like in, at one point in this conversation, you sort of said like all of you in your business world, blah blah, and I'm like, I was actually thinking like I'm not in the business world, right? I'm in the education and the nonprofit world, and it's a different framing and a different, I don't know. Maybe we have too many retreats talking about vision and mission and uncomfortable conversations, but it tends to tilt more in that direction than what we do here. So anyway.
My reference to the business world actually wasn't like business per se. It was more that the one thing we're missing is the application of some project management tools.
Yeah.
Which are appropriate in all environments. That's, I feel like, the one thing we're missing.
Yeah.
And simple stuff like a shared drive, because
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
email this stuff
Right.
around, and so it's
Yeah.
like all of us are like forgetting others a certain.
which is like for being productive, like the
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I sort of assume that we can't just use Trello or something like that. That would be great. But anyway, I'll go on.
Yeah.
And Marion, your comment, I can tell you that, entering my 12th year, right? I've been reflective. I first ran for the board with my friend Melody. We ran together. So I've been here. She's been out building her world and helping our students. And that forces me to reflect over a decade. And you kind of get caught in the day-to-day stuff. But when you stop and say, wow, what's different than 10 years ago and 5 years ago, it's a deeper kind of thinking. And I do think there's a need, you're looking for that part. There is a deeper need for that, because these things take time and are slow. And there are some things that are going slow that, and when I look at, that goal in racial equity and talking about and student performance, there's areas that we're still seeing the same damn things that we saw 10 years ago. Okay, so that part pisses me off. Okay, but then you can look at procedures and policy. So I'm what I'm saying in a lot of words is I do think it is important as a board that we're looking at the long-term big picture of things, and how do we then work that into our goals? And it probably starts even with your comments, Audrey, which is goals can't be, goals on, if we're looking at goals as a 1 year only thing, we're trying to bite things too small. It has to be bigger picture, but we've got to take
progress.
So,
Yeah.
So I thank you for that. Okay. Okay. I think we've beat up and talked about our governance section. Did we get everything there taken care of? So the action item is we will start the board self-review. We will get the goals in a little bit more friendly fashion so that we can tie them up and, more importantly, use them as a launching pad for next year. And I think that covers that. Okay. So with that said, we have completed governance. Unless anyone has anything else in the governance section. And let, yeah, I know, I'm just. Yeah, I logged out and it probably needs my secret double code, so yeah, here we go. It's me, I'm still here. So why don't we just go around the horn and we'll go through them click by click of our different entities. Where are we? And I will go through them and ask for any updates. iGov. Marianne's talking, but we can't hear her.
Sorry, guys. Tom, were you at iGov?
I was at iGov, and the big focus on iGov was about how we can best provide support for individuals who are considering candidacy for office in three different phases. So that, you know, candidate forums, there are a variety of things, but iGov is looking at what they can do to help people that are considering it, help people once they consider it, and then once new entities are formed, how they work to it. So they're trying to come up with the right time frame of it, and that was the extent of it. So we'll move on. CFC.
CFC has not had a recent meeting. Its next meeting is on June 11th, and I'll actually be out of town that day. Are you around June 11th?
Yeah, because I'm around June 12th, then yes.
Okay, so you can make that meeting?
Checking. Too many buttons. June 11th. Yes, I'm around and it's on my calendar.
Okay,
good things. Okay. CCB. No May meeting. Apple.
I was out, but I believe Jonathan was able to attend the
Yes.
scholarship dinner.
Yes, yes. It was yeah, it was wonderful. It was an honor to be there. It was Melanie McQueen had during her public comment had covered the activities for the most part. We had honored Mr. Wade's retirement and also had issued grants to the award-winning essays amongst the students. I did have one sidebar conversation with a couple at my table, and that I think merits a passing along about sort of lamenting the that the fact that Apple used to have more of a presence in within the stanzas of the school day. Like I think the two individuals I was speaking with, they had said that for many years there was a designated space for Apple to use in the school, and that that no longer is available to them, and that there's a real need for that in their opinion. So this is the first that I've ever heard about this, but I just wanted to pass that along, that was definitely an area, something that there seems to be a lot of interest in reestablishing that presence within the stanzas of the school day with having a dedicated space for Apple. So I just wanted to pass that along.
Okay, thank you. Sustainability. Did you attend?
I was at the last.
Yeah, I think it was you, Fred.
Not a whole lot to share.
Yeah, there wasn't really, I think, really that Tony kind of talked a little bit about what we had done in facilities. Yeah, what's next as well, I'm not going to speak about. Yes, I mean, basically what happened in the facilities committee meeting was presented today as the 10-year maintenance plan. And that was kind of unveiled to sustainability. I think there was also a report from some students about if there's going to be some work done in the building outside of where the Husky Pubs outside area is. There's an area there that has wood chips, and they're going to build a kind of a garden that are going to have natural flowers and grasses that are native flower grasses. So.
Okay, thank you. So we'll skip, you did facilities, so the River Forest.
Our May meeting, canceled that second.
All right, community council?
So held the last meeting of the year, well, more or less about a week or so ago. And did an update on EP, where I thought the staff did a wonderful job in terms of answering a lot of questions. There was a lot of conversation. Forgive me, my mind just went blank in terms of the wonderful person who's leading us.
Dr. Lamb.
Dr. Lamb, my parents over there, and Dr. Lamb, basically they, got a lot of, just a lot of questions, a lot of detailed questions about what's happening, but did a great job sharing just the data and what it meant and being able to engage the entire group, and I think also just educate the group as well. Did you add anything else, Greg?
No.
Good conversation.
Yeah, it was a good meeting. It was off-site, so it was a little bit more relaxed social setting. It was good group.
Okay, boosters,
They haven't asked for our attendance. I've talked to Magda occasionally. They have a new leader, Jen Hart, is taking over as the leader of the Boosters Club.
all right, applause.
So I'm not attending the meetings, but I'm reading the minutes and which they do very thorough minutes. And they've finished the year strong. They seem to be in pretty good shape, lots of great performances. The volunteers seem solid, much better shape than they were a year ago. So I'm pleased by that.
All right, alumni.
Yeah, the Alumni Association met last week. Major topics. First was the fact that we had a booth at the block party, which seemed to be well attended, and there were a lot of alumni walking around at the block party. That also then it was reported that the grants for two student grants.
For the
summer enrichment.
Yes.
Well, so it's really not, it's not what we've done in the past because the school still isn't sponsoring trips.
Right.
So, but we are giving out, kids have applied, we're giving out about $34,000 of grants for kids to participate in various activities over the summer. And then the final thing was that there was a $3,500 grant given to the debate people. We no longer have a debate team.
Right.
However, we have students that participate more in a hub format, and that they qualified to go to I think two of them qualified to go to the national tournament, which is in Des Moines, Iowa, over the summer.
I should clarify though, those students have been affiliated with our speech team. And so their work there is a product of their work on speech team. So sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyways, they're going to the national tournament and they needed funding. So they applied to the Alumni Association. $3,500 to help them get to the tournament.
Okay, thank you. Scholarship, Tim, your favorite.
They met last Friday and I was unable to attend. Greg,
Yeah, I did attend. There was a lot of retrospective conversation about it. I mean, they really had the culminating event recently. Where $300,000 was awarded through the foundation to over, I think, 137 student recipients for that. And it's an incredibly successful year. They've had some changes in leadership. They've really tried out a lot of new tools, and generally they deemed that the year was a real strong success. And so they're looking at building it up for future years. So that's really
Okay, early childhood.
I believe we're still, Lisa might have an update on this. I know she's been working hard to reschedule that last meeting that got canceled.
That's, the executive assistant at D97 was working to reschedule, and we haven't heard anything.
Oak Park Council of Government,
What to say about the last meeting?
I will say that we challenged or asked a little bit about what the mission and, you know, we brought it a few times of what we were doing and landed on a discussion on governance, and the disparity between the different entities within the village, where some are, you know, from a process and refinement, some are much more refined, so that is gonna be a topic that's gonna keep moving forward to see how one entity, how the different, you know, governing entities can kind of help each other and best practices. So, and lastly is student advisory.
We'll change the title of this for future years, but I had a really nice productive conversation with members of student council and other ad hoc students who were invited and came to a meeting. Maybe 3 weeks ago now, I think, and we talked about a variety of topics related to school life there, but one of the topic that was the vast majority of the time was about having a student rep on the board and getting kind of feedback and engaging their interest in it. And so their feedback for that will be part of what we package up and bring to the board likely in August as we get to.
Excellent. All right, well, thank you for that. You know, before we go to future agenda items, well, it is future agenda items just from a, you know, because here we are, we're at the a couple things going on this weekend, right?
June is packed.
June is packed. So just, you know, coming to a theater you're new tomorrow morning. Is a teacher. What's the formal name for it?
It's a teacher recognition breakfast. And so it's
recognition
for retirees and also people that have hit milestones in the years of service.
So Audrey, you will be.
I will be there.
You will be there in speaking. You'll be there. So that's awesome.
Thank you for that. I was going to ask about that. Do we have adequate representation?
Yes.
Because I like to come to those meetings, but tomorrow's gonna be a little bit tougher for me. So if I know
Yes.
we have at least 2.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Okay, and then Sunday we have graduation.
Yep.
And we will, Mr. Arkin will be our speaker.
What
Or, you
time-
know.
What time should we show up?
So it's, you want to do it?
Actually,
Yeah.
It depends on what the weather.
actually, Ms. Parker, our principal, would like everybody to be able to be lined up by 2:30 to 45, so if you guys can get the night to make sure that you have everything that you need, and you can meet me and the students. And
So 1 hour ahead of whatever the start time is, you end up having to decide.
That's exactly right. And in the event that we change the time, we'll be very explicit.
Are we meeting the student?
And you mentioned,
Yes.
Greg, you mentioned earlier that you will flip the start time as early as noon, you know, based on your weather forecasting, right? My question to you is, right now it's at 3, right? And you'll go to 3. Will you shift it any later?
Oh, interesting.
Because my understanding, weatherman Tom, is that the weather, the last I looked was coming in at like noon. And, you know, might be noon to 2 or something like that. So I'm just asking, would you shift it to 4 o'clock? Or I just heard you would shift it earlier. I didn't hear the other way. I'm just trying to understand.
We did not have a conversation internally about shifting it later. It is easy to see how that could be doable, right? If we
Okay.
decide that we're going for a 3 o'clock start and suddenly it's not gonna happen at 3 o'clock, we probably would wait it out before shifting everybody indoors.
Okay,
right?
all right, that's,
But, you know, there is limited flexibility. If we decide that we're gonna go at 3 o'clock, that means that the whole system's ready to go outdoors
Yeah.
And that means indoors is not possible.
Yeah.
Because you have to take down the sound system and build it up inside.
Yeah.
It can't happen. So we probably would play, it'd be like waiting for a baseball game to start when it's raining. We would be in this waiting game to start.
And I'm being kind of, because I'm predicting early rain later. That's just me watching the weather, right? And so if that's the case, then you'll always have the chairs already preset, or you'll set them up after the rain.
The chairs are set up right now.
Okay, so that means towels.
We ask board members to bring their own towels, help dry out chairs.
Okay.
No.
For real? I don't know what's gonna happen.
Not a problem.
No, we will do everything we can to get this ready to go.
Yeah, no, I mean,
And
outside is outside.
clearly, our preference is outside.
Outside is weird.
That's how we can do it. Greg does a heads up if they switches to noon, I might be late, but nephew graduates and they would go at 9:30.
I understand. That's.
Wow,
You get the student.
Okay.
An important detail I just heard, you gotta report to the student activities center.
Yes.
Which is essentially the new library.
No.
No, what are we talking?
Same
about?
place.
It's in the student center.
Same as it ever was.
He wasn't there last year.
I didn't do this last
He
year.
didn't know
Oh,
last year.
no.
I'll show you.
Right by the little theater.
Yeah, it's always the same place it's always been, right by the little people.
Okay.
You never been there?
Are all 7 of us gonna show up?
Is anyone not gonna be there? Oh,
I'm not gonna be there.
okay, and Audrey, you have a commitment in the morning that
Right.
if we run early,
Right, I may be.
then, okay. All right, I just.
Mine's the opposite. I have a commitment in the afternoon. If it goes early, I can be there. So, yeah.
Given that we play no role here, it's kind of immaterial if all 7 are here or not, and the kids aren't gonna give a darn whether board members are there. So as long as we have a decent representation.
I think it's important for us to be,
I care.
we talk about our engagement and our visibility, I think it's important for us to must be there, so.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's important. It's important if you can do it. It's not,
Right.
okay. Last,
Do it for yourself.
okay. Let me finish here with herding cats here. So that's graduation. Next week on the 4th of June, which is Tuesday,
Let's
right?
go back, June
Wednesday.
second.
What's June second?
June second is the day in our village, you skip that over.
Oh, June, a day in our village. Oh, I missed a whole week. I'm okay, and so everyone needs to sign up for that, including me. I haven't done it yet.
Thank you.
I just have, I'll be there.
Okay.
I'm not going, is it in Scoville Park?
Yes, sir.
I just need to figure out where to go. Okay,
I'll be out of town, but I did it for the library. It's fun. So I recommend it to people.
Please sign up. We have some empty slots, so we really need some bodies.
Bramfield too.
I will
Yeah,
sign up.
I'm
I
flexible.
just haven't looked at it yet. I don't, okay? And so I missed a whole week, but I'm just trying to get, everyone's calendar, because June 2nd, now I can go to June 4th
Yes.
Yeah.
at 4 p.m.
4 p.m.
Central, whatever time, daylight time, is the groundbreaking
Correct. And that'll be
of Project 2.
right in front of the school on Scoville, right in front of the Project 2 footprint.
I'll unfortunately be at a nephew's graduation out of town, but one thing I wanted to ask is, did we extend an invite to Sarah, Ralph, and Cabri to also be at this ground?
Not specifically, it's a great suggestion.
I know Sarah's planning on being,
All right,
so somebody must have put her.
I will be,
I think Karen Sullivan be reach out to some family board members.
oh, not my knowledge.
She asked me for the email
That's
not
great.
too long ago.
Hey, let's just double check it. Great.
All right, and I think that's as far as my brain can go. So is June 4th. Am I missing any others between now and our next?
Board meeting, nope, 2 days
Board
after,
meeting?
4th is our meetings.
So-
And I'll be out of town June 4th and for the June 6th board meeting.
Okay, so I mean, there's a lot happening in the next 2 weeks because it's, end of year, end of building kind of thing, so. All right, with that said, any future agenda items?
The one thing that that I would just we've I guess I've touched on this before. I believe Fred did at some point as well. I know we got the post-secondary pathways information report today, which, you know, aligns some of the work that we're doing in the vocational skills-based, trades-based areas. I'm still concerned we're not doing enough in that area, and I really want to dedicate some some greater time and effort to identifying opportunities in the community for partnerships to bolster the skills-based vocational trades opportunities that we have for our OPRF students. And then I know Fred and I also we had some discussions about doing some research into some of the our peer districts and looking at some successful certificate programs and looking at whether they can are viable options for gaining traction in our school district. So I just want to make that really have a richer dialogue discussion around that area at some point.
Do you have it?
Got it down.
Okay. Others?
Well, I think to just connect to what Jonathan said, I want to be clear about what will the role of the board be versus the role of the administration. Because I think having understanding what the team is coming up with and what they're recommending, what they're seeing, I just don't want us doing that work. Right? I think that's not board government. So I mean, in terms of coming to having the team come to us around, you know, what more, maybe discuss what else they're adding or how might they be addressing their concerns, but I just don't think the board should be going out doing research and gathering information. But misheard, that's fine, but I just want to make sure that we're keeping our role appropriate and keeping the leadership team's role appropriate.
Anyone else for new future agenda items? Graham?
One thing, I'll be really fast about this.
Yep.
One thing I snuck into that norms document is the idea around the horn, shout outs and recognition for board members, because you know, there's a lot of good things happening here at OPRF. As an example, last week I attended the showcase end of year performance by the Spoken Word Club. And the writing, the performances are sensational. But I want to particularly shout out to Coach Levin, the new facilitator of that, and the other coaches, because they had big shoes to fill after Peter Kahn left. And it was terrific. And you know, that business incubator program is pretty awesome. I've been super lucky to be a judge for that thing last couple of years. And of course, the kids, their grit, their creativity, their ideas is fantastic. A lot of good work put in by the mentors. But I think it's worth recognizing also Mr. Preble, who's the department leader of our business education program. And he makes that whole thing run, and the kids just love it. So I just want to give those two real quick shout outs. And if anybody else wants to share future shout outs, I think it's something we could consider at the conclusion of these meetings, because a lot of other boards do.
So I did see you in that, you know, you put that in the document, right? And I think it's it's a great idea. So great. Okay. I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? We will see you in the days ahead.
Wait. Don't we have a special meeting?
No.
No.
Am I okay?
After Cal.
7:30.
No.
Never mind then. Never mind. I got confused.
No, we don't have, we only have a special when we have a committee because
Okay.
a special.
No.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be done. Just